The House has resumed. Members, the House is considering the second reading of the New Zealand International Convention Centre Bill. Labour call, 5 minutes. Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in this bill. Normally when I take a call I say that it gives me pleasure, because it does. It's a privilege to be in this Parliament, but this is one of the saddest bills that I've seen debated. It's made even sadder, actually, because my understanding is that at the end of this debate we'll be having a personal vote. That's pretty rare in this Parliament, and I think that it will be pretty challenging for some members of this House to vote in support of this bill when in their own conscience and their own heart they know that it's wrong. So I would really urge them to reflect on the fact that it's not just your constituents that you need to go back to and front up to. It's not just your party hierarchy that you need to go back to and front up to and explain your actions. Actually, in the end, it's your own conscience. Okay. It's your own reflection in the mirror that you see in the morning that you have to justify your actions to. And this legislation and the shonky deal that it turns into law cannot have any moral justification. It's an outrage. If there is a good debate to be had in this Parliament, and by crikey, I hope there are lots of them. I've been party to many of them, and I hope there'll be many, many more. But if there is a contentious issue, if there is a debate to be had, then it's my view that it's the responsibility of the Select Committee and indeed the Minister to make sure that all the information about that issue is presented. You know, so what if some people don't like it? That's not the point. It's so you can have a well-informed debate based on the facts. Well, that's what the Select Committee looking at this bill sought to do. They said the advisers on this legislation are from MB. They're the people that have been negotiating, quite literally the same people who have been negotiating with the Sky City people over this deal. How could they possibly give robust advice to the Select Committee? It felt as if they were compromised, and they certainly acted as if they were compromised in some of their advice. So the Select Committee members, well, the Labour and Green members anyway, not the other members, quite properly said we need a broader range of advice. We want advice from Treasury about the financial implications of this deal. We want advice from Internal Affairs. They're the people that run the gambling regulatory regime in New Zealand. They should know what's going on in this space. And we want advice from Health, because after all, the gambling issue, the gambling problem, is a public health issue. So that's what the Select Committee said. And I think that they should be commended. That was good thinking. That's looking at the breadth of issues that are implicated and have impacted on by this legislation. What did the National Party members do to that proposal? Did they say, what a good idea, we want well-founded, well-informed, robust debate? No, they didn't. They said, no, we are blocking any attempt to have that breadth of advice to the Select Committee. And I think that's a disgrace. Hiding information, hiding advice from a Select Committee is something that should not be tolerated by this Parliament. And of all the members of Parliament who chair Select Committees or have positions of responsibility, I am stunned that Jonathan Young did that. Really? I'm not want to praise national members of Parliament. I think it's damaging to both their and my reputation. But actually, I think quite highly of Jonathan Young, and this is a huge disappointment, and it is a major detriment to the quality of the debate that we are able to have. So, Mr Speaker, what we ended up with was a Select Committee that just had advice, so-called public service independent advice, from the very department officials who had negotiated the deal with the Sky City people in the first place. So that's the first issue I want to raise in regard to a shonky process leading to a shonky outcome. The second point I want to make is one that both Jonathan Young and Trevor Mallard have commented on. And I was alerted to this by Jonathan Young after I mentioned it at an earlier stage of this debate. And I feel tricked by his advice, because it's about the people who work for organisations who had contracts with the Ministry of Health, who could not make a submission on this legislation solely because of their contract as public health supporters and advisors, or those who offer treatment to people who have gambling addiction. Those people were not allowed to make a submission. Now, Jonathan Young corrected me when I said that before. He said that's not true. We did have those organisations represented. What we didn't have was the specific
Member's
people,
time has expired.
Specific advisors
The member's
themselves.
time has expired. Denise
Mr.
Roche.
Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker.